Hey everyone, it's Ben Hardy here, and in today's video, we're going over several updates for the new car market. Before we get into this video though, as always, if you want to save time and money the next time you purchase a car, link to my car buying guide in the description down below, and some of the information provided in today's video comes from Cox Automotive. Let's get into it. The new car auto market is in a very interesting place right now, to say the least. We still have the ongoing strike situation, and the assumption coming from everyone with the strike situation is that this is going to decrease auto market sales and potentially increase prices because, again, supply and demand dynamics. But so far, that is not what we are seeing. A lot of automakers like Ford, like General Motors, have released their quarterly earnings, and what we're seeing is volume is still up year over year, so they're still selling more cars. And on top of selling more cars, incentive spend has increased year over year with every single automaker across the board. And so what this shows is that there are bigger discounts on cars and more cars being sold. Now, another part of this equation that's interesting is that average transaction prices with most automakers are actually up year over year, not by a massive amount, but by a slight margin. The only thing that bucks this trend is with electric vehicles, where prices are down year over year with pretty much every single automaker. And again, a big part of that is because of what Tesla's done with their huge price cuts, forcing everyone else to cut their prices as well. Now, some information that comes from Cox Automotive. They are now forecasting that there's going to be about 15.8 million vehicles sold for this sales year. That is up from last year by a pretty substantial margin. And on top of that, they're expecting that this month, October, the month where we've had a strike happen during the entirety of the month pretty much, is going to see more vehicles sold than September, 3.8% increase. And so what this really shows is that when it comes to a quarterly perspective, the strikes haven't done anything yet. And when it comes to a month-over-month perspective, the strikes also haven't done anything quite yet, which I think is really interesting. But that's not the entire story, because there are certain things that might not be seen on analytical spreadsheets that you can see in person. So first off, when it comes to new car deliveries, what I've been seeing with the brands that are most affected with the strike is that yes, they still have been getting vehicles delivered, but I've noticed that the pace of vehicles getting delivered has slightly slowed down. And I've noticed this most prominently with brands under the General Motors umbrella, because with those brands, everything was already kind of constrained, right? They were selling really well, better than Ford and better than Stellantis. And so this is where you can see, things happening most prevalently is with the General Motors brand. But there's something else that has been happening over the course of the last month that I've been noticing, and that has been the build quality with any vehicles manufactured in the US. Now, there has been a decline over the course of the last 3 years that I have noticed. Personally, if you're wondering how I notice this stuff, I review about 1,000 cars per year, and so I notice trends with different cars. So I have noticed a quality decline over the last 3 years, but especially over the last 2 or 3 months, I've noticed an even bigger quality decline. And what I mean by this is, if you look at a car built in the US prior to 2020, then, it's not necessarily going to have the best build quality ever, but, most of the trim pieces are going to fit together pretty well. The car is going to look like a brand new car. It's not going to look like it has been in a wreck. Post-2020, things started to get worse and worse. And what this looked like is, maybe some trim pieces weren't fitted all that well. Maybe there was a bigger panel gap than you'd normally expect that, you might see if a car's been in a wreck, but obviously the car hasn't been in a wreck because it's brand new. But over the course of the last couple of months, things have escalated to a pretty crazy level. I have seen cars delivered with trim pieces that are just completely wrong, wrong material. And this happens every so often, but it's wrong material, plus there's tons of panel gaps, plus there's trim pieces that are super loose, plus there's trim pieces that just fit so improperly in the car that they just stick out. It just looks absolutely horrible. It looks like the car was just thrown together rather than actually put together. And I am kind of suspect of, this being, from the whole strike situation, right? Everyone knew that they were going to go on strike. And so it seems like the workers just started to not, again, like I said, I've noticed the quality declines, but it seems like especially now, they really started to just not care about putting these cars together. Now, something else that could have had this happen is all these automakers, right, expecting these strikes to happen, maybe they push the workers to build more cars than they normally build. And so with all this rushing to just build all these cars so they have inventory to sell while the strike happens, that could also play a part. And, you know, my guess into the situation, it's just my personal guess, I bet it's both, right? I bet that they, you know, the workers were rushed, and on top of that, the workers just got to the point they knew they're going to strike, that they just didn't care. And so that is the first, you know, thing with this whole strike situation. I know that was kind of a long segment in that, but anyways, putting this all together, what is most likely going to happen with the new car market moving forward with everything that we have right now with this ongoing strike situation is we're probably going to continue to see really robust sales. But there's going to be a point where if they don't get this figured out, that sales with any cars manufactured in the US are going to go down. And so this is going to be a prime, you know, time for automakers that don't have cars manufactured in these plants that are currently under strike to just swoop in and steal customers. And I think that's what we're most likely to see. I think that people are just going to brand swap rather than not buy a car. They're going to be like, oh, well, if I can't buy a Ford, then I'll buy a Toyota instead. Or you guys get the point. So let me know what you guys think about this situation. And let me know if you've seen all of the quality issues that I have seen out in the world. Again, especially over the last couple of months with these cars made in the US. I mean, it's pretty abysmal. Anyways, I'll see ya.